Hey everyone, it's Snack from Crow's Nest, and I'm here with Steven here at Versus Games in Orlando, or Oviedo. And we're here with a YCS Raleigh Ultimate Time Wizard top 8 deck list. What'd you play?
I played Vayu Turbo, tuned to beat the mirror.
All right, nice. Metagaming a little bit for... And before we start, we have something to talk about?
Yeah, super big announcement. We actually are partnering up with Crow's Nest for a big 3v3. It's going to be all Edison, no Goat or Tengu this time. It's going to be the Ultimate Time Wizard Trios, that's what it's called, and it is going to be on October 12th. So more details will come super soon, but it's going to be super awesome. Prizing is going to be at least as much as an RBET. So, and with that being said, we did make sure not to conflict with any RBETs or YCS level events. So rest assured, that date is good to go.
Yeah, very exciting. Everybody come down to Oviedo. If you were here for the RBET, things went super smoothly. Both Steven and I are going to be on commentary, streaming the event on October 12th. And it's very exciting. Come down with your friends and join in. So I guess we can get into the deck profile?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. So I'm not going to go over the super obvious stuff. It's the generic 7 birds with the 4 warriors, and then the HRC package. I guess I'll talk about the 2 hamsters really quick. I like 2 hamsters over the charge. I think too much milling can be bad, especially because my list doesn't play Necrogardna, which I know is a little bit controversial, but I'll get into that a little bit later. Without the Necrogardna, I don't know. I like setting this card too. It's another starter, whereas Charge of the Life Gate, they kind of know you have Raikou, and good players would already know how to play around Raikou. So not really too thrilled about showing them that I have it and then setting it. So.
And how do you feel about the 3 Sirocco? Would you always stay on 3?
Oh God, yeah, I can't believe I forgot to talk about that. Yeah, I do think playing the 2 is super cope. This card by itself is just an actual good monster. Like, I don't mind seeing this card in my hand because sometimes it can be a starter. It's also really good in the mirror. It's really good against Black Wings. It's very good against Hero Beat. It's just a good card by itself. Also, because you have double deck dev, then you actually sometimes just want to draw him by himself, so you don't have to overcommit into your deck dev play. Because if you're going second, you can T-set him with deck dev and then kind of go off that way. I do think 3 is strictly correct. I don't actually think this is much of an opinion. I think it's just fact. Although I do encourage everyone to try everything. So sometimes, you'll find out on your own. But, and then the generic one-ofs is Plague Spreader, Trooper, Dark Arm Dragon, and Gores. Like I said a little bit earlier, notable exclusions are Spirit Reaper and Necrogardna. Spirit Reaper, a lot of people always say it's the 40th card. It's, for me personally, I don't think it does enough. Well, sorry, it's a very versatile card, but I don't ever want to see it over like an Armageddon Knight or even a Hamster Raikou sometimes. And I do think that the deck is Swiss Army knife enough without that card to where I ever miss having the utility of setting it or attacking with it and getting value. That being said, it's an incredible card, and I don't think it's crazy to not play it, to play it. I just didn't really want to. And kind of same with Necrogardna. Necrogardna is incredibly powerful, and it's sometimes very good on turn 1 when you have bias, but I value not drawing it more than the ability to mill it or send it. This is where it gets a little controversial. I realize that everybody plays Garden and it's accepted as like correct to play it now. I just didn't want to build the deck that way, and you'll see a little bit later on more reasons as to why. It is just also technically a brick. Drawing it along with drawing one of your Vayus is bad enough already. So I'm not really too thrilled to see any of those cards in my opening hand unless I have a Greffer. But even then, it could still be pretty dead if you open too many of them. And the deck actually didn't break a single time until my top 8 match going first. So super unfortunate, but I can speak to,
I've definitely had success with Vayu builds without Gardna in them. I think I've played like at least 2 tournaments where I've gotten top 2 without the Gardna, so I can speak for it. That's definitely a valid way of going for it.
I think the card is incredible, and if you play it, you're not crazy or anything. I just didn't want to play it this weekend, please. And then the spells, it's the generic 6. No charge because I played the second hamster. So aside from that, there's not really anything to talk about here. And then traps, it's the broken one-ofs, second one in the sideboard. 2. And I do play the full 3D prisons. I had the space because I don't play Solemn Judgment or Trap Dust Shoot. More of that in a second as well. And then the one thing that everyone gets caught off guard is I'm actually playing 3 Yata. This was kind of the core concept right here, because it lets you get free value. My favorite thing to do is to freely summon Card Trooper or summon one of your knights or set one of these or any of these starters with 2 back row. I think that 2 back row, it lets you play for free around Heavy Storm, and it happens a lot because you're playing the full 3 Yata, where you can just comfortably set 2 and you don't really care what happens. If they heavy, cool. Sometimes they MST and they hit the Yata, and that's amazing. Or, you know, they set a Ryko, they T-set, and you can go like, Armageddon Knight, send a Plague or whatever, set Yata, and then pass, they're going to flip the Ryko, hit the Yata. It happens a lot. Gemini Spark on Yata happens all the time. Because people are really scared of the back row. So, because your monsters aren't that threatening. Sometimes it's like a Ryko, but people can play around Ryko. Sometimes just an Armageddon Knight, people can play around that. If it's a Greffer, 1700, super easy to run over, so you're going to use the resources to kill a back row, and then run over the monster. The one time I did play the mirror match was in round 8. I set this and a bottomless, I think it was, on turn 1, and he set a Ryko, pass. I draw for turn, it was another Yata. So I set this and then Typhoon as well. And then on his turn, he Typhoons my Typhoon. I chain my Typhoon on his back row. Then he flips the Ryko and hits the Yata. I chain the Yata, I draw a card. And then he tributes the Ryko for Kaius and hits the other Yata, and I drew another card. And suddenly he has 3 cards to my, like, 6. So that was obviously super magical, dream scenario where everything goes right. But the point is that things like that happened all the time. Also, set this when you have Gores is, you know, also another magical Christmas land scenario.
Did you feel like people were playing slower against you because you were showing like strength with multiple back row? Like they weren't committing as much?
It was either one of 2 thought processes. He's running Starlight or Solemn, or this guy's terrible, I can't believe I didn't draw Heavy Storm. It was always one of those 2 thought processes. But to get onto like the weird thing where I don't play Solemn Judgment or Trap Death Shoot, Solemn Judgment is an incredible card. I might just not be good enough to play the card correctly, but I always found myself dying because I activated too early. Every Vayu player knows what it's like to open those hands where you have 5 monsters and 1 trap, and if that 1 trap is Judgment, I always find myself really struggling, do I set it or not, and then dying to it eventually if I make the wrong choice. I just chose not to play, especially because I did want room for this. The one change that I would make is taking out the 3rd Dimensional Prison for the Trap Death Shoot. My experience with Trap Death Shoot is I always draw it on turn 7, and my opponent has 1 card left in hand. I've already grinded them out, I'm going to win anyway. I draw it going first maybe once or twice or something, and it just never really works out that way for me. But in a YCS level event where there's a million rounds and all your opponents are probably going to be at least decent after the first few rounds, I think your deck should have a higher concentration of unfair cards. So going back and retooling my thought process for the event, I would have changed the Deep Prison for the Death Shoot. I still wouldn't play Judgment though.
How do you feel about, I noticed you're running no Book, no Compulse. How do you feel about those cards?
I don't think Book is very good right now. I think if in a world where, it's funny, I played against 2 Diva Hero Synchro decks and it would have been great there. But in a world where those decks pick up a little bit more, then yeah, I guess I could see it, because stopping their non-tuner or tuner, depending on which play they go for, can pretty much just end them, because that's a deck style that it has a lot of very small, intricate moving pieces, and if you can interrupt them mid-play, it's really, really good. One of the ones that I played against actually misplayed super hard, where they discarded Malicious, and then instead of using the Prio, or with Greffer, I'm sorry, to special the Greffer, instead of using the Prio to banish the Malicious, they actually chose to summon Diva right then and there. So then I crowed the Malicious in response, and they were like, oh shoot. And then I had bottomless for the Goyo anyway, so it was like, really, you know. Anyway, the point is, if you interrupt any of their very small, intricate plays, then they kind of lose. So Book would be good if that deck picks up more again. And then Compulse, probably should play it. I didn't, or it's not in the sideboard either, but it's very good. But I think my deck is good enough in the mirror to where I probably don't need it. Extra deck, really fast. It's the most generic thing ever. My 15th card is Mistworm. So Armory, Catastor, Brionic, Goyo, 2 Armwing, 2 Armor Master, Stardust, Black Rose, Thought Ruler, Colossal, Silverwind, Dark End, and then the Mistworm. So there's really not anything to talk about with this one. And then the side. So it's 2 Snowmen. I'll talk about this in a sec because there's an interesting theory with these. 2 Dyna, 2 Crow, 3rd Oppression, 3 Dust. This, I think, needs to be a staple moving forward. I think a lot of people like to play 2 for, you know, like, you know, in the formats where you have 3 MST, do you ever play Dust Tornado on the side? Not really. This format, I think, is a little bit different because there's a lot of rogue decks, and MST is already at 1, and Heavy's at 1. Yeah, sure, you have Trunade and Cold Wave, but the decks that play those cards are going to beat you anyway, regardless. So I think the third one is really important against all the rogue. It's very, very good against Amaryllis. Eric Shen, the eventual winner of the tournament, and I were talking about this when after he beat the first one. He told me, he's like, yeah, I boarded in the Dust Tornadoes. It was really good against all their equipped cards, and like end phasing a Phoenix Wing Wind Blast kind of screws them over sometimes because they're really relying on that. Sometimes to like slow you down because that deck can brick a lot, but if they can slow you down enough times, they'll eventually overpower you with Titanial and tokens and all that. So he was bringing in all 3, and I was actually really scared. Saturday night, you can ask the people I was rooming with. I had nightmares because there were so many Amaryllis decks in the X1 bracket. But yeah, we thought about it, and it's like Dust Tornado is actually super good against that deck, surprisingly, even though they don't run that many traps. And now with Miracle Fertilizer picking up steam, Dust Tornado is even better. So I think 3 is just absolutely correct moving forward.
We get a lot of experience against Amaryllis here.
Yeah, we have some really good Amaryllis players at our locals. Our locals is the best. It's goated. And then 2 deck dev, 2 rug, and then my body is a shield.
I love my body.
I do too. It solos the Diva Hero beat matchup, which I think is very difficult. Eric thinks it's very Vayu favored, which he's just so much better than me, so I'm not even gonna have an argument there. But I like this card a lot too. Oh yeah, for my matchups, I have notes, so I don't want to forget. Round 1 was Dark Gaia, which sucks because I got hit by a Kawaki Mirror Guardian. I was like, oh no, I'm in lethal range already, so that was really scary, but it ended up being 2-0. I went first, and then I immediately lost to Tom Mack on Chaos Plants. Incredible player. His deck was a complete mystery to me. I lost game 1 to, I think it was like Mono Titanium, which happens when you play Vayu Turbo. Sometimes that just happens. And then game 2, I OTK him, and then game 3, he OTKs me. So it wasn't, I didn't really, like afterwards I was like, are you even on Amaryllis? He's like, absolutely not. I am on Dark Plant. I was like,
it's definitely hard to get a read on that deck.
Yeah,
I saw the profile, and it's like...
Yeah, his deck was cool. And then, yeah, game 3, he was like, Titanial, Dark on Dragon, Chaos, Sorcerer, I don't know, something else, and he just killed me. But it was super cool. He ended up bubbling. He made it really far. And then it was Diva Hero beat. After that, I won 2-1, going second. And then I played against Simo on Black Wings, going second. I was 2-1, and my god. Normally I say don't meet your heroes, but he's actually just the nicest guy ever. And we chatted for a good bit. And hopefully he comes to the event in October. That'd be awesome. Super cool. And then I played against Diva Hero Synchro twice in a row, going second both times, and I beat both of them. One was 2-0 and one was 2-1. I think that matchup is super 50-50 and kind of pilot dependent. I think it's really skill intensive, and like if both players are equal, it's basically a coin toss and whoever draws better.
Were you able to find depression in those matches?
I'm sorry?
Were you able to find depression at all in those matches?
Yeah.
Because that's like a really good card.
Yeah. It's a super blowout. Yeah, and that's another Phoenix Wing Wind Blast deck, so I do also bring in the Dust Tornadoes, even though they don't play that much defense. It's still super important to end phase hit their back rows. So then I had all my waking nightmares about Amaryllis, and I ended up playing against Hero Frog in the first round of day 2. And it was 2-1. I won. Game 1 was a serious nail biter. He goes for this insane play where he has to like switch his like Duke Frogs to attack mode to like punch me for damage, and he's like, do you have Gores? I'm like, no, and then he's like attack. And I was like, okay, I'm at 100, and he's like, oh no, and he like redoes his math. He's like, dang, yeah, you're at 100, pass. And then I had Caius Dark on Burial, and I killed him.
That's crazy.
So, that was super lucky. And then game 1 he wins with frog stuff, and then game 3 I opened Oppression double pulling the rug and a very aggressive start, so it kind of just went my way. I don't like that matchup too much, but it worked out. And then I already talked about round 8. I played against Vayu Turbo, my one and only mirror match of the weekend. I went first and like kind of clean house with Legacy of Yata-Garasu. So, and then I lost.
Legacy stocks going up.
Yeah, I think so. I should get secrets. But and then in top 8 I lose in like 15 minutes to Diva Hero beat, the guy that ended up getting third. Game 1 I bricked, and it's the only time in the whole tournament that I bricked, so I'm really not that upset. At the end, right before I concede, I Heavy Storm for information, and he Starlight Roads me, and I have Typhoon, so I Typhoon the other back. Let's just see what he had, see if I can get any knowledge. And he had Starlight Road, so I was like, okay, things not to play around, probably Gores. And then game 2, I'm going first, and my hand is really strong aggressively, very weak defensively. So I kind of like go crazy on the board, and then he drops Gores, and I end up dying to the Gores. And I was like, dang, that's really strange. but it got me. So I guess
Yeah.
it works. It is what it is. I let Eric know because I knew that would be his opponent next. I was like, hey, just so you know, he has Gores and Starlight Road, so be careful. And then I was watching the match, and there was a Gores, a Starlight Road, and a Shadow Mirror all in his deck. So I was like, dang, this guy was prepped. This guy was ready. So yeah, that was my tournament run.
Congrats.
Thank you so much. I don't really get to play in these too often anymore, so I'm really happy that I got to go out there and show everyone I still got it. It's been a while since I've topped anything relevant, so.
Get to add a Ultimate Time Wizard top to your YCS top.
Yeah. I do have a million shoutouts. The first one, and most importantly, Versus Games. This is my locals. I also run the store, so please come by, support us, please. We have a lot.
Everybody
of
come in October.
Yes, especially in October. Also, my testing team got a million. The Discord server is packed. It's Rob the Man, MSW, Matt Williamson, Brian Gaither, Shaggy Powers, Tyler, Don Mattingly, Jorge Garcia is right there. Obviously, Sizzle, Eric Shen, Chai T, Jason, and Lucas. We all kind of formed a little posse over the weekend. We were all hanging out. Matt Kalenda as well. Frazier was part of it too a little bit. So he likes to roam though. So, and then of course the Snack and a million more. But also, I don't want to forget a super mega special shout out to one of my best friends in the whole world, Cody Minix, who the week before the event, he bought me this first Ed Near Mint Ulti Plague Spreader Zombie just so that my deck would be max rarity for the YCS. And I never dead drew this card. I milled it with Ryko like a million times, so thank you so much, Cody. You're the best. But yeah, I am super excited for the event in October. I can't wait to commentate it. It's an excellent Edison action. Hopefully this can be a yearly thing.
Hopefully.
So yeah, thank you so much for having me on the channel too. Appreciate it.